You know, every single second, you do something you probably don't even think about. You breathe. But it turns out this super simple act is powered by an incredibly complex system. So today, we're going to take a deep dive into your lungs. We're going to figure out the amazing mechanics behind every single breath you take.
But before we get started, I've got a question for you. Right now, just sitting there, breathing totally normally, how much air do you think is actually in your lungs? A liter? 2? Go on, take a guess. Got a number in your head? Good. Hold on to it, because we're about to go on a journey from the outside in to find the real answer.
So, where do we start? Well, funny enough, our journey doesn't actually begin with the lungs themselves. It starts with the brilliant structure that holds them. See, for you to breathe, your lungs need to be inside this secure, airtight chamber that can expand and contract. Think of it like our body's own set of bellows.
And that chamber, that's your thoracic cavity. It's really the whole architecture that makes breathing possible. You've got your vertebral column at the back, your sternum right here in the front, and then the ribs wrapping all the way around the sides. And sealing it all off at the bottom is that big, powerful diaphragm muscle. So when that diaphragm pulls down and your rib muscles lift the whole cage up and out, the space inside gets bigger. And that's what literally pulls air into your lungs. It's just this perfect protective container that's totally designed for movement. Okay, so now that we've seen the house, let's meet the stars of the show, our lungs. And you'd probably think they're just perfect mirror images of each other, right? Well, they're not. They're actually more like siblings. You know, kind of similar, but with their own unique quirks and features.
So check this out. Your right lung, it's kind of a bigger sibling. It's heavier, it's wider, and it's split into 3 sections, or lobes. The left lung, on the other hand, is a bit lighter and only has 2 lobes. So why? Why aren't they the same? Well, it's all because of your heart. The left lung has this special little curve carved out of it. It's called the cardiac notch, and it's there just to make a perfect little space for its super important neighbor. All right, before we get into the nitty-gritty, all the numbers and stuff, we've got to learn the lingo. Think of this as a quick vocabulary lesson on the key terms that scientists and doctors use to talk about breathing. So it turns out there's a specific word for pretty much every type of breathing. What you're doing right now, hopefully, is called eupnoa. That's just normal, chill breathing. If you were to slow way down, that's hypopnea. And you know that feeling after a good run? That's hyperpnea. The other ones on the list describe more serious situations. Dyspnoa is that awful feeling of struggling to breathe, and anoxia is a really dangerous lack of oxygen getting to the brain.
Okay, enough vocabulary. Let's get to the numbers. So to finally answer that question from the beginning, how much air is in your lungs, we first have to break down a single breath into its 4 basic parts. And these are called volumes. Let's start with the most basic one. It's called tidal volume. It's about 500 milliliters, so like half a liter. I love the name tidal volume because it's just like the ocean tide, you know? Gently coming in, gently going out. And that's exactly what this is. It's the amount of air that just flows through your lungs with every normal, relaxed breath, just like the one you're taking right now. But wait, here's where it gets really interesting. Not all of that 500 milliliter breath is actually doing any work. Yeah, it turns out about 150 milliliters of it never even makes it to the tiny air sacs where the magic happens, where the gas exchange happens. It just kind of hangs out in your windpipe and all the tubes leading to your lungs. This is literally called dead space volume, which means only about 350 milliliters of each breath is actually oxygenating your blood. Wild, right? Okay, do this with me. Take a normal breath in. Now hold it. And now breathe in even more. As much as you possibly can. Go, go, go. That huge extra gulp of air you just took, that is your inspiratory reserve volume. And it is massive. It's like 2.5 to 3 liters of air. It's your emergency reserve, you know, for when you're exercising or you just need a sudden burst of oxygen. All right, now let's do the opposite. Breathe out normally, and now push out even more. Keep pushing. Force every last little bit of air out. That extra bit you just forced out, that's your expiratory reserve volume. It's about a full liter of air that you can choose to expel if you really try. It kind of clears the deck for a bigger breath in. And that brings us to our last and maybe the most important volume of all. Because no matter how hard you just pushed, you can't actually empty your lungs. It's impossible. There's always about 1,200 milliliters of air that just stays there. This is called the residual volume, and it's absolutely crucial. It's what keeps your lungs from totally collapsing on themselves.
It's the air that's always there, no matter what.
Okay, so let's recap. We have our 4 building blocks, that normal tidal volume, the 2 big reserve volumes, and that residual volume that never leaves. Now we can start putting them together, kind of like Legos, to understand the bigger picture of our lung health. And these combinations, they're called capacities.
First up is inspiratory capacity. And this one's pretty simple. You just take your normal breath in, that's the tidal volume, and you add all that extra air you can possibly suck in, your inspirationary reserve volume. Put them together, and that's the absolute max amount of air you can breathe in, starting from a normal resting exhale.
And you guessed it, there's an expiratory capacity too. This is the total amount of air you can breathe out after you've taken a normal breath in. So it's that normal exhale plus all that extra air you can push out from your expiratory reserve. Okay, remember that question from the very beginning? How much air is in your lungs right now, just sitting there? Well, here's your answer. After a totally normal, relaxed exhale, the air that's left inside you is your functional residual capacity. It's a combination of the air you could still push out, your ERV, and the air that always stays in, your RV. And for most of us, that's about 2,300 milliliters. So how close was your guess?
Next up is a really important one, vital capacity. This is a huge indicator of lung health. What it represents is the total amount of movable air in your lungs. So it's everything except for that leftover residual volume. Basically, it's the biggest breath you can possibly take, from the deepest inhale to the most forceful exhale.
And at last, we get to the big one, the grand finale, total lung capacity. This is the whole shebang, the absolute total maximum amount of air your lungs can physically hold. You just take your vital capacity, all the air you can possibly move, and you add that residual volume that's always there. And boom, that's everything. So there we have it. We've built this entire beautiful model of our lungs piece by piece. We've measured every single part of our breath. Or have we? Because there is one last fascinating twist. There's a little ghost in this machine. A volume of air that you just can't measure with the usual tools. And here it is. This is kind of a mind bender. The standard tool for measuring your lungs is called a spirometer, but it can only measure the air that you actually move in and out. And since that residual volume, well, by definition, it never leaves your lungs, a spirometer can't see it. It's invisible to the machine. And of course, that means the 2 capacities that use it in their math, your functional residual capacity and your total lung capacity, they can't be directly measured either. They have to be calculated using other methods. So that leaves us with a final thought. Our own bodies, right now, contain these essential volumes of air that we can't even directly measure. There's this constant, life-sustaining presence inside us that just remains unseen. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other potential, what other hidden capacities are humming away inside all of us, just